Okay, so the next case is again a respiratory case, and this one is on shortness of breath. So, a 26-year-old female teacher has consulted her GP for her persistent cough. So, instantly, her age is significant, and also the fact that she's experiencing this persistent, continuous cough. She wants to have a second course of antibiotics because an initial course of amoxicillin made no difference. So we have to see why her GP prescribed her amoxicillin, and the fact that it made no difference is quite significant again. So the amoxicillin made no difference, and now she wants a second course. Okay, so the cough has troubled her for 3 months. So 3 months is quite a long time since she moved to a new school. Okay, so the cough is now disturbing her sleep. Okay, so that's quite significant, and making her tired during the day. She teaches games, okay, and the cough is troublesome when going out to the playground and when jogging. Okay, so she's a PE teacher, and it gets worse when she exercises, basically. So in her medical history, she has her appendix removed 3 years ago. In terms of shortness of breath, I don't know whether that's very significant, but we'll underline it anyway. She has had her tonsils removed, and that's significant, as a child, and was said to have recurrent episodes of bronchitis between the ages of 3 and 6. Okay, right. She has never smoked and takes no medication other than the oral contraceptive pill. Her parents are alive and well, and she has 2 brothers, one of whom has hay fever. Now that's very significant. Okay, so let's continue. So the respiratory rate is 18 per minute, which is normal, I would say. Her chest is clear and there are no abnormalities in the nose or pharynx or the cardiovascular respiratory nervous system. So everything here is normal. So examination wise, she's normal. So in terms of investigations, she's had a chest x-ray, which is normal, which is good. So spirometry is carried out at the surgery, and she is asked to record her peak flow rate at home. The best of 3 readings every morning and every evening for 2 weeks. Okay, so she's had a home spirometry done. Okay, and this has been for 2 weeks. Sorry, 2 weeks. Okay, so if we just have a quick look, her FEV1 is within the predicted range. Her FVC is in predicted range as well. They're all in predicted ranges. I mean, I would say this one's borderline, but whether that's significant or not is something that we can discuss later on after we've read the full thing. So the peak flow recording is shown in figure 4.1. So peak flow recording at home for 11 days. Again, significant. So what is your interpretation of these findings? Okay, so the peak flow shows quite a lot of variation, so I would suggest that maybe it doesn't really reach the criteria for diagnosing asthma, so we can't diagnose her with asthma going off her spirometry results and her peak flow as well. So if we do look at the peak flow, there is quite a significant drop. So this is day 1, that's the end, so in the morning, and then it's quite low, and then it drops again. So this dropped incline, if you like, could maybe just be suggestive of the fact that she's a PE teacher, so she's exerting herself throughout the day, and that could be a cause for a shortness of breath and her low peak flow measurements. Okay. Something that's quite significant here is the fact that she was actually labelled as having bronchiectasis as a child, which makes you question, did she ever really have bronchiectasis, or maybe that was just a misdiagnosis? So maybe she was actually labelled as having bronchitis. Sorry, not bronchiectasis, as bronchitis, but actually she had asthma. Because the age range is especially 3 to 6. That's quite a common age group where children will suffer from asthma, and obviously they can grow out of that, and they can be fine for many years, and then it will come back, which is what this picture looks like. She has never smoked, so again that's quite significant. So asthma can happen in patients that have never smoked as well. In terms of a medical history, appendix removal, not really significant. Oral contraceptive, again, not the most significant thing, not in this instance anyway. One thing that is quite significant is the hay fever that her brother has. And the reason for that is it suggests that there is an atopy history. So we have the atopy triage, which I'm sure you've heard of. So it's just a triage, which there is eczema or hay fever or asthma. So if any one of those are present, so for example, if hay fever is present, the likelihood of having asthma is significantly higher, in the same with eczema. And the first thing we ask patients is, does mum or dad have hay fever or eczema or asthma? So any of those atopy symptoms, if you like, or pathologies. And then we ask, do any siblings have this condition, any of these 3 conditions? And if they do, it's quite likely that the patient might have asthma. In this instance, brother has asthma, other brother doesn't, but one of them does. So there could be a genetic basis for that, so that's quite significant. Something else that's quite significant is the fact that it has been going on for 3 months, and it happens when she jogs. So in this instance, this is a cough which is being triggered by overexerting herself, and also possibly by being in the cold and being outside, which suggests a bronchial hyperresponsive response, which is basically just the coughing really, and that's typical of asthma. So they've done a chest x-ray, which is normal, right? So something that's quite important is that if a patient has a persistent cough without a cause that has been pinpointed, then if a chest x-ray must be done. But if the chest x-ray is clear, then it can be one of 3 things. It could be either asthma, it could be rhinitis or with a postnatal drip, or it could be just acid reflux, which can cause the acid to build up, come into the esophagus area, if you like, and that can trigger that cough, and that's quite normal. In terms of differentials for this case in particular, we could say maybe it could just be a foreign object that's maybe stuck, or we could say it's something like bronchial adenoma, or maybe fibrosing alveolitis, or maybe a cough which is common when patients are on ACE inhibitors. Obviously she's only on the pill, but if a patient did come in with an ACE, who used an ACE inhibitor, and they were complaining of shortness of breath and a persistent cough, then it's most likely because of the ACE inhibitor. So we can see that she's possibly had quite a few tests before the amoxicillin was prescribed. So, I mean, it's quite a funny one, but if we go on to the next question, which is what do you think is the likely diagnosis and what would be appropriate treatment? So I think the most likely diagnosis is asthma. If this patient did have a diagnosis of asthma, then obviously they would do things like an exercise test, and if there was a 25% drop in the FEV after completing a 6-minute vigorous exercise regime, then usually that would point towards asthma. Or another one would be if after the exercise test, if they gave her an inhaled steroid and the cough settled, then again that could maybe indicate asthma. I mean, in terms of management, what would we do? I would prescribe a steroid for 1 week. If the cough settled down, then we could maybe think about giving her a reliever, salbutamol maybe. But you don't want to keep patients on steroids for too long, so ideally you would want them stopped after about 4 weeks, and then we would replace that with a beta-2 agonist, and we would advise her to use this beta-2 agonist inhaler before exercise. If the cough was recurrent and there was a wheeze or shortness of breath, then we would change her back to inhaled steroids and give her a beta-2 agonist. So it would be a combination, so it would be an ICS, so an inhaled corticosteroid with a beta-2 agonist. Now, if control was still not established and this cough was still quite persistent, then we would do 3 things. We would check her inhaler technique to make sure that she's using her inhaler correctly. We would check her adherence to see whether she is actually using the inhaler or not. And I mean, if it's a pass for all of those, then we would maybe think about adding a long-acting beta agonist or a LABA. And in terms of treatment, you would do it stepwise from the NICE guidelines. So we would give an ICS, inhaled steroid. If it settles down, then perfect. We can, continue with maybe salbutamol or something like that. If not, then we would replace. We would continue with the ICS and use a combination, or we would use the beta-2 agonists. If inhaler techniques are still, inhaler techniques is fine, adherence is fine, then we would think about adding a LABA. If inhaled steroids are used for a month, that's fine, but we can also go down the route of using oral steroids, so using those for 2 weeks, that might relieve her cough. From this case, I think the 3 key points that they want us to take away is that 3 common causes for a dry cough with a normal chest x-ray in this instance is it's either asthma, so it's sinusitis with a postnasal drip, or reflux esophagitis. Thank you.